Welcome to Life in the Music Business, a masterclass with Professor Pooch and your host, BACEFACE.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Life in the Music Business. Here at Life in the Music Business, we are all about self-empowerment for the music business entrepreneurs. And today I'm here with Pooch, as always.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Another crazy day in the neighborhood, kind of thing. Well, actually, when you're stuck in the house, what's funny? What came up today? We've talked a lot about people keeping their careers going through a virus or sometime when they have to. God, look at Texas. We're shooting this show when Texas has no power, no water that's drinkable, and things like this. But we're always talking about our careers, but there's another very important aspect of the virus thing that does affect your careers, and that's your life. And I was thinking, through all these periods of time, and I've run into a lot of situations. I had even posted on Facebook at one point in time. I said, it's days like these, something like this. It's days like these that whoever you have to be close to a lot, like a roommate or a lover or whatever, that they're also your best friend. You know what I mean? It goes from a lot of different angles. And I can talk hours on that thing, but to tie it with your career is that I've gone through this a lot in my books and stuff, but when you're getting band members, you're inviting somebody to work with you about, really checking them out. And one of the things I usually say is, so make sure they have a sense of humor too. Because, I remember the days, and I'm sure it still happens, where a band owns a house, or will they rent a house or whatever. They have a house because then they can practice there and they all live there. Well, now they're all stuck in the same place at the same time and have to get along with each other without kicking everybody out of the band,
Yeah, that's crazy. Personalities clash, and you got to make sure that you can work with somebody. That's a huge thing for me when it comes to collaborating with people, is whether or not we can work well with each other, because some people are super talented, but you just can't be in the same room with them,
Boy, you brought up a thing that I just think of. One of the things is when I say when you're choosing a studio, there's two things, that are the most important. Can they give you what you need to do? Can they, accomplish what you want to do? And B, and just as importantly, how does the room feel? Which means, are people you're going to really be able to get along with and make it a great session? Or, if the feeling, I've been in sessions where there's been problems within the band, and this, to that, and stuff like that. And what a mess.
Yeah. The vibe is huge.
This stuff sounded dead. It was like they weren't into it, and I've never seen them like this, in this particular session.
Wow. That's not good. That's never good for a creative artist, I feel like it's very important for them to feel comfortable, to be able to let loose. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to create as best as they could anywhere else.
Well, yeah. And I thought of this through the years, about, like in the book I said, about, really making sure you can get along with people and stuff like that. And here you have with this virus, where you have to be able, whoever you're ever close to, whether it's a coworker, a musician. My ex-wife was a songwriter, and we work very well together, just not in the same property. Okay. But it's just okay. But and I was thinking, because my present wife, second one, I got right the second time, lets me be me, and we get along. We've lived in the same house through this whole virus and basically stuck in here, and we're fine. It's allowing the other person to breathe,
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I know that, especially young couples, They always want to spend their time with each other all day, every day, and then over time it starts to that starts to deteriorate the relationship between the two of them, because they're around each other all the time, breathing down each other's necks, as opposed to just like living their own lives and then being together. Like two halves don't make a whole, as they always say. Two wholes make a whole, which meaning that if you only half love yourself, you can't fully love somebody else. You have to love who you are, be comfortable in your own shoes to be able to give that forward to your significant other.
Yeah, and then think of I've always equated, like, if you're living with people you work with and stuff, I mean, it becomes like a family, like a marriage, and it's getting along with these things. Well, here's something that I found is the best, one of the most important things to do to keep relationships and everything in a household and a working relationship and whatever. And that is, it's got to be a rule. And I'm not usually for rules, but this has got to be a rule. If anyone who's in this situation, this team, project, house, whatever situation, is upset about something that has to do with someone else in the band or the band itself, they must speak up immediately. And see, we're creative people.
Yes.
And we can make things, after weeks and weeks, the person's going to be so upset and they'll forget even what they were originally upset about.
Yeah.
Because we're creative entities, So my number one rule is, if there's a problem, please tell me what it is before, like they say, don't make mountains out of molehills, or whatever that cliche is, or something. I don't know. But
Yeah. I find that's an important thing, and I think that it's also important to note, you got to be aware of everybody's personality, because it's sometimes not what you're saying. Like, you may be coming from a great place, but how you were saying it just came off in the wrong way, and that person got offended and then caused a whole big fight. But you have to really consider who you're speaking to and kind of cater it towards that person, because everybody perceives things differently. You may have cracked a joke that seemed like nothing to you, but to that person, they felt like you were really coming at them, and you could really damage relationships like that. So you have to really be careful and really be able to read people.
And especially in these times where, you got to be careful whatever you say to anybody about anything. It's getting really tough out there, because
Yeah.
what works with what, one of the ways I learned in a funny way was many years ago. Somebody wanted to turn my book, my first book, into Spanish. And I found out something very strange. You can't just turn it into Spanish. You have to have somebody from different Spanish areas check it out, because what means one thing to somebody in Puerto Rico means something totally different in Mexico. And what might sound like slang or whatever, that's okay in one of them, but in the other one, it's a disaster. You know what I mean? So you have to have somebody that's really, to put it mildly, all right, I'll tell a story because it's so long ago, and it's real people. When the Cream, that's Clapton, Bruce, et cetera, come into Philadelphia, this is, God, it's 68 or 69, I don't know. But these are English people. They speak English. Americans speak English. But God, when they talked, I had to go down and get the rest of the equipment. I was helping out from the side. I'm not going to get into all that. But we went down to Philadelphia Airport, and I needed to give this their driver, who was used to driving beer trucks, and he was having a ball trying to knock people into the expressway rails. It was really strange. But the point is, I couldn't understand one word he was saying. I would ask him to repeat his sentence like 5 times. I still had no idea what he was saying. And it was English, but it was such an accent. I mean, oh my God, but
Yeah, it can be tough. It can be tough. But the one thing I find interesting actually is like no matter where you are from around the world, unless you legit are cannot speak English at all, like no matter what, like if you have an accent, when you sing, you don't the accent doesn't translate. It's so interesting. I've noticed
yeah,
that.
it's very true. Or people that lisp when they sing, they don't lisp.
Yeah, believe it or not, I had this is actually funny. This is a side note. I had a buddy that had he had a stutter, but for some reason when he was
Yeah,
in
stutter. That's what I mean. Yeah.
yeah, when he had a stutter, he had like something happened to him when he was a kid, but when he was intoxicated, like normally he would be stuttering normal like all the time, but I would finish his sentences for him. But then when he was intoxicated, his stutter would go away and he'd be talking normal and we would be intoxicated, so we wouldn't even notice that this was happening. But it
That's
was like the strangest thing ever. I guess it was like a neurological thing or something. Like for some reason it just
you know what it's
yeah.
the funny thing about that and everything else we've talked about tonight so far all fits under one word. It's called communication and how people communicate and taking, you know, it's like I say, yeah, say something to somebody, but it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And communication, I've seen so many projects. I've brought this up before, but it's important. I've seen so many projects and bands and everything else, totally get torn apart by non-communication. Remember, I said speak, as soon as it comes, speak up. Non-communication, miscommunication, uh, whatever kind of communication. It's just super important with getting along with people, and especially with the virus where you're stuck inside, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy, and this is actually an interesting thing to bring up too. Is that like I notice nowadays that because everything is in video form, and that's the majority of the content that people consume on a daily basis, the art of reading is almost like diminished. Like people don't pick up books and read anymore, and or if they're watching a video, it has subtitles, so they don't even have to be listening; they could just watch it, and it's like it's just so crazy how the times are changing in that way. But I still feel that reading helps communication and it helps build your communication skills to be able to interact with other people. Because I mean, that's like a human that type of interaction is just like not necessarily something that could be what I mean given to you. It's kind of something you have to learn and understand.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's funny, I figured I wasn't even going to put my books and courses on Amazon. I do my PDFs if they want my books and audio. But I put it on Amazon because there are people that need to hold something in their hands and read it.
Yes. I'm
You
one
know,
of those people sometimes. It really depends for me, but especially with your books and courses, I loved having the hard copy because I could hold it in my hand, I could highlight it, I could go through and different stuff. Sometimes in
that's a good point. Highlighting.
yeah,
Good.
like taking notes and that type of stuff. I'm the type of person where like whether no matter how technologically advanced I am, which I'm pretty advanced, but I still am the type of person to love a pen and a pad. Like I
Mhm.
write my thoughts down on a with a pen on a piece of paper because that's just what I enjoy. That's my
Hey,
medium when I need to write a song or anything along those lines.
and then when they say, the best way to remember something is not to type it in, but to write it. Actually, go through letter by letter, writing it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, it's I find for me at least too, it helps a lot because when I have certain things that I need to write down, like that I need to get out of my head, writing it down and I almost say it out loud at the same time in like by accident. That's just kind of how I train myself. But it's almost like writing it down. One that helps me like put it into existence. You know what I mean? Like it's in physical form. I can hold it. I could look at it. But at the same time, it's also like. it just helps me get that thing out of me that I was trying to say or trying to do, like all my tasks and things I have to get done. I know I have a calendar on my phone, but there's nothing like writing on a piece of paper that just
It's
does it
quick.
for me.
It's quick. The pen, paper. Just, you don't have to go to a certain page and all this kinds of stuff. Yeah, believe me, I understand. I do the same thing. I make notes. And my problem is my lists have lists have lists.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. We have so much information nowadays that like it's impossible to go through. I mean, think about it. I just bought a 14 terabyte hard drive a couple weeks back, and we had one of our episodes. We talked about how you had a hard drive that was seven. I think it was seven
Guys,
meg.
20. My first hard drive was 20 megabytes.
Yeah, okay. 20 megabytes. I mean, the logo I made for my studio it was like 5 megabytes. So I mean, if you put that in perspective, it's like wow, it's incredible. So it's like if you think about it, like we're almost like data hoarders, and like, it's like when are we actually gonna ever go back and like look through 100 terabytes or 10 terabytes of information in 20 years from now? You
Oh
know?
man, I got way, way, way too many duplicates on the cloud. But now you know why the cloud is a good business model.
Yes, it is.
The Dropbox is up because they'll give you some for free, but they know you're going to need more room. Because God, I mean, think of just our episodes that we've shot in HD. You
Oh
know,
man, I can specifically tell you. I mean, we probably have at least 100 between. I would say between 100 to like probably 300 gig of just information in the last 35 episodes that we released.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and with all the side stuff we do,
yeah,
it's. I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying.
and now and think of me. I'm working with you on this. Da, da, da. All my client stuff is also their songs, their videos. It's all backed up, And boy, of course, there's going to be a time I'm going to need more space, or I'm got to spend the time to get rid of all the junk that I don't need anymore.
Yeah, that's gonna. I mean,
Duplicates.
yeah, I was gonna say that's probably gonna be a good business model for the next 10 to 20 years. Like people are specifically hired to like clean up all the information that you don't need. You know, it's
Yeah.
like going through a car
Well,
wash.
there are programs that will take care of redundancy and stuff like that, but I am afraid that they're going to make a mistake along the way and take out something. Maybe they think it's a duplicate, but it might be a little changes or whatever that still shows the same parameters or whatever. I don't
Same size. I mean, there's only so many things they can go by. They're not actually going to go into each file and, look through it. I mean, like you said, if you have a couple of sentences that are different in one, or like you have the same name as something, like for some reason with some of the files that I mean, for some of the stuff we've done for the shows and the artworks and stuff I've done for myself and a lot of stuff I have going on, I'll have duplicate names, but like the one picture is like corrupted or the video is
right.
corrupted and the other one is the real one. And it's like they're in two different folders, and if
Well,
they pick the wrong one, then,
it reminds me when I first started getting onto computers, where I was around other people with computers, was when I was teaching. And this goes back to the late 1990s, early 2000. And everybody would name their file Untitled. Now you can only have Untitled 1, Untitled 10. You have no idea what it is.
yeah,
That's why I've learned to become more and more specific. Because just as the truth, they were doing a virus scan of something like 3 years ago on my tower, and I had 375,000 files in my computer. Now I have a couple drives,
yeah.
but I mean that's insanity. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine how much I can fit on this 14 terabyte hard drive. I mean, before
Yeah. Oh, I could live in there. I mean,
before I had this 14 before I'm just checking my volume level here. Before I had this 14 terabyte hard drive, with all the hard drives I had combined, I had about 12 to 14 terabytes, which is 14,000 gig. So then now I duplicated that because I'm using this as a backup to all my other hard drives. So you're looking at almost 30 gig or 30 terabytes, 30,000 gig of space. And I'd be honest
And
with you,
people will say, why do you spend all that money? And I'll tell them, because there'll be the time where something happens and you lose. God, I've seen people lose whole finished albums, whole
I can only
finished
imagine how
albums.
horrible that feels. That's probably the worst feeling on earth. I don't think it gets worse than that because it's like something it's like your child. It's like losing your child.
Yes,
Like,
I was thinking the same exact thing. I tell people, why are you sitting on the songs and stuff like that? Yeah, they're your children, but there's a time for them to grow up and go out on their own. But yeah, I think songs are your children.
yeah, they are, and that's how I treat them too. But sometimes you can't do that because then you hold on to them forever, and you pretend like you're gonna live forever, like I do, and I'm hoarding songs. Like if when I get one day when I get a manager, I swear they're gonna do it. I don't know if you guys remember the old cartoon from back in the day, El Kabong, the donkey with he had a guitar and he would come through and be like El Kabong and bang you over the head with his guitar. It, that was he was like a superhero, but like I feel like that's what my manager's gonna do to me. He's gonna come through, pick up my guitar, and bang me over the head with it because of how many songs I've sat on for the last who knows 7 years. I mean,
As one of the things they say, even about money or about songs or whatever, you can't take it with you.
no,
So do
especially
something with them. They're just taking up space.
yeah, especially if I don't leave. Like if something were to ever happen to me and like I didn't leave my passwords behind, like good
Oh
luck trying to
God.
get into my stuff. I mean, when I crashed my car a few weeks back, I was thinking about that. I was like, whoa. Like my dad had brought it up to me, like, make sure you make your phone password like something that we know, so that like if anything were to happen, and I was thinking about, I was like, damn, he's got a point here. Like I gotta write this
No,
down and keep it safe.
yeah, I mean, oh, and then there's the people that their password is password. Oh my God. And oh man, I was on Facebook today and somebody sent me this musical thing or whatever. But I said something seemed odd because they didn't. Oh, I think you'll like this. It was something like that, but it was from somebody I don't usually talk to. And this happens a lot. Never click on that kinds of stuff. It's hacking. There's a lot of hackers, and I checked, and somebody had hacked because I saw the end of the URL said .ru, which I believe is Russia or one of those kinds of things. And
You have
where
to
are we?
yeah, you have to be careful with that. I mean, I get spam emails all the time, and you could fall into that stuff. I've seen people lose I mean, 50 to $100,000. Like I know some older people that are not savvy with the computer like you are, Pooch, and they were like, "Oh, log us into your bank account and this and that," and then before you know it, the lady couldn't even pay for her mortgage anymore because she was literally
There's way too many stories about
yeah,
that.
scamming,
And
man. It's
and
very, very, yeah. You got to be careful about that type of stuff. You got to. I mean, it's a good segue into it. It's like kind of like make sure your passwords are secure and that you're not just making them stupid stuff and easily hackable for people because somebody gets into your information and they log you out. I've seen it happen where people
oh yeah,
really dug themselves in some deep doo doo because
oh
this
yeah.
person got into their information and took everything.
Oh, all right. Let's get off that. But yeah, just folks, with tying up what we were talking about, basically, though, it's all about communication and and let people. Yeah, somebody should know the passwords. Somebody that you trust to have your passwords. But yeah.
How we were talking about working with other people. I think collaboration is a huge thing that I don't think we really got a chance to touch on what it's like to work with somebody else, whether that be a songwriter, a producer, or I mean, in this case, I think that it would be ideal to stick with a songwriter or somebody that's like if you're an artist working with another artist, like what to be looking for.
Well, yeah, in general,
Yeah,
yeah, you're on a good point right there with the songwriting. Yes, because that comes up the most with, especially with like hip hop and things like that, because people are collaborating and stuff like that. But the overall thing with it And I lost my train of thought. Give me a split second here. Ah, uh, what were we just talking about? Bring me back a sentence.
Oh,
Give me
we
that.
were just talking about collaborating with people.
Oh yeah, collaborating. The one thing with collaboration, though, no matter what kind of collaboration, we're going to zero in on what BACEFACE was pointing to. No matter what kind of collaboration, that before you start working with somebody, have some form of an agreement, written out. There's a lot of advantages of working with other people, like, and especially like, it comes up a lot, like BaseFace was saying with the, uh, songwriters working together, or songwriter and producer who could be the songwriter also. It's just, my first thing is I have to do the business protection thing. But yeah, have a piece of paper, some kind of a collaborators agreement on whatever's being decided. You can start with the split sheet. People know I hate split sheets because they don't give you enough information. But you can start with it, but it should have in there that this will be expanded upon, but yeah, everybody should know what they're getting into. So, there's been too many people screw other people in collaboration things.
And indirectly too. I mean, like I've run into some instances recently where it's like I've collaborated with a person. Like, say I believed in somebody, right? Just to give this as an example, I believe in somebody, and it was like they're like a group or whatever, and I believe in them so much that I'm willing to cut the upfront cost of the production, but I'm looking for more points on the back end. And when I did all the work for them and everything, they ended up just releasing the song without letting me know, and not having any of
Well,
the
see,
taken care of, and any,
that's why there would be a communication clause in the agreement between you and them, that if they were doing anything regarding that, you would be notified.
yeah. And I feel like that's something that's just like a it's like it's almost like a moral right. It's like you know what I mean, like
Well,
that's where
the problem is, yeah, it's a moral right. Yeah,
yeah, that's like part of the communication or part of the collaboration.
exactly.
It's
It's
like
communication.
yeah, it's like when you're working with somebody, like there's a level of professionalism you should always keep. You know what I mean? Especially in the industry, like the more professional you are, the more that likely that people are going to come back and work with you again if they had a good experience with you. But if you're not, if you're letting the like right off from the beginning, the first time you work with them, you're kind of just blowing them off, and you're just making all the decisions yourself because you feel you have the power, but the other people that you worked with own part of that song. Like, how can you even go in and make any decisions without that person's yeah, you know
Well,
what I mean? I don't, it doesn't make sense.
yeah. First of all, that's why before I want to work with somebody, I have to just sit with them and see who they are as a person. Am I going to be able to work with this person? You don't know somebody until you talk with them for a while. Uh,
Yeah, it's interesting, but I mean that kind of goes into the split sheets too. A lot of people are always like, "Oh, let's make sure the split sheet's right," but people don't realize that the split sheet doesn't really protect anything. It's just kind of like acknowledging that everybody in the room understands what they are, what have contributed to the song, and that type of stuff. But I like the way that you have your split sheet, Pooch, where it's a little bit more detailed, where it actually is. It's
it's
actually
within a contract.
it's actually enforceable as opposed to just a piece of paper that says, "Oh, well, the split sheet says this." Well, the split sheet doesn't say how you're going to get paid and who's going to pay you and when they're going to pay you. So,
And can I check the books? Is my name going to show up? I
how
mean,
is
we
it
get
going to
out a
show up?
list of what's missing in split sheets. That's why I put them within, like in your case that you brought up, like this, let's say songwriter splitting songwriting or whatever. It'll be within there, like I always use it as a schedule A. Yeah, this is something for people to know. So people say, I don't want to keep giving the same contract up and back to the same person you don't have to. You could have a contract and then what is known as a Schedule A attached, and you list all the songs you've worked with, and the splits on there within the contract. Okay. Uh, and then if you do any more, you just write it in, both sides initial it, and it's legal. So There's a lot of ways to solve these different issues, but man, it's getting along with people. We're back to the very same thing we first started out the whole show over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
This
And I mean,
communication is just
and it also goes into professionalism too. I mean, you have to
yes.
you can't just be out here and just treat it like uh, you can't just treat people not properly or professionally and then just expect them not to go and tell everybody else. You know what I mean? It's like you like we always say that your name is the most important thing that you have in this industry. So it's like you should be protecting that almost like you protect your credit score. How you
Well,
make
that's why I
sure.
always put a secrecy clause that people that you're working with, it's always somewhere's in there. You can't talk about the other person and their contacts and things like that.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, very, very important. I've always been able to keep that level of professionalism. That's why I'm able to get more clients. Believe it or not, a lot of my clients nowadays are reoccurring clients that I've worked with previously in history, and
That's great.
you know,
That's the key. That
yeah,
means I like what you do, and I
yeah,
like working with you. That's see, it's really important, that the people can, always feel that way, that they can come back to you. You
yeah.
know,
I don't like to burn bridges. So when it comes to certain things, like I've had clients, right, that have come to me to mix or whatever, and then they just disappeared and they started working with somebody else. And or they had told me beforehand. I've had some people tell me, "Hey, listen, I'm going to go work with this person." And you know what? I'm like, "Hey, you know what? That's awesome. I'm glad that you're going and exploring and being able to learn more about what you want to figure out what you like and what you don't like." Like I've never yelled at anybody because they said that they want to go work with somebody else. I've openly let them go and work with that other person, and believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, those people end up coming back to me later on in the future. So it's like,
yeah, quality speaks. But yeah, well, it goes back to when you said like, and you're right. Uh, we're talking about communication, but also like you said, what's really important is being professional. And God, I went years trying to figure out how do you define professional? Because usually people say professional, amateur, one makes money, one doesn't make money. But the word I keep coming back to for a definition of being professional is respect.
yeah,
Respect for your art, respect for yourself, respect for everyone else. Like you said, don't burn bridges. Oh boy.
yeah. I think personally, and from my opinion, I think that what was it? Professionalism kind of embodies like three things. It embodies the respect, the morals, and ethicalism, if that's even a word. Like
Ethicality. I don't
ethic,
know.
yeah, who knows? But
Ethically.
yeah, right. I'm not an English major. I'm not supposed to know that, but I mean, there you go.
I love making up words.
Yeah, but me too. That's I think those things are important because like I think that being professional means that you are respecting your time, you're respecting other people's time, but at the same time you are doing things that morally that go with your morals and not against your morals, like trying to screw people over. And ethically, you're not skimming money off the top while nobody else is looking and that type of stuff. You know? I
Uh,
feel like
and to me, that's another form of, my one curse word is abuse. You're abusing people, and it's just nah.
yeah,
People ask, well, what religion are you? To me, and I just say, my religion is very simple. I want to go to my grave knowing I never purposely hurt anyone.
yes.
That's my religion. Everything else, man, I'm the boss. I could do whatever I want, be as nuts as I want to be as creative or use my imagination in any direction as long as I'm not hurting someone else. But that's your respect again, your profession, being professional to people.
Yeah, that's an important thing, especially in this industry. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
like there's so many people that say that they're ethical and they go by their morals and all this stuff, but when you catch them behind closed doors when they're by themselves, they're plotting and doing this, that, and doing this and that, and that's really what defines you. Like if you were to what you do behind closed door when nobody's looking is really what defines you. I feel like because it's like
That's interesting.
like if you like if I were to like for instance, like if some just say I stumbled across like $100,000 or a rare diamond or something like that. Like obviously you're gonna look at it and be like, oh my god, I just came up on all this stuff. Nobody's ever gonna know. But you don't like what
You're gonna know.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna know, but what if it was like that was like you tried to go take that and it was planted there to see if you would take it or not. You know what I'm saying? That's how I kind of see
Oh boy, that's being creative. That's using your imagination. But yeah, you're right. It could be.
it could be. So I always
Anything's possible.
everything I do, I always try to do it. Even if I'm by myself, I think of it as if somebody else is in the room watching me. Like what would I do if my
Oh,
boss
man.
was in the room while I'm yeah, exactly. Like if I was sitting like say
Yeah, but don't. It's good to think that way, but don't drive yourself crazy thinking
no.
that way.
Yeah,
Just
obviously
be that way.
there's levels to everything, but
Yeah,
the levels
I
of
mean,
severity, but
no, I mean, just look. If you're going to be that way, you don't even have to think about it. You're just going to be that way.
yeah, I mean, when I started off as an intern, right? Like, I feel like the reason I was able to get ahead is because when everybody would leave and I was sitting there cleaning the studio, like, it would be like, oh, nobody's here, so nobody's gonna notice if I did this or did that. But I'm like, if my boss was in the room right now and sitting there watching me, would I skip or cut corners? No.
That's interesting.
So if I'm
That's
gonna
a
if
good
I
way
if
to
I
look at
wouldn't
it.
cut corners when they're in the room, why would I cut corners when they're not in the room? That it almost makes me feel better knowing that I went the extra mile to get that job done because when
It's
somebody
a
comes
it's
in,
it's accomplishment, man. There's nothing like I always feel I know myself how good of a day I had as by a certain way I feel. And that certain way of I feel is because I actually feel like I accomplished something that day, and make each moment special because who knows what's going to happen in this world.
yeah.
Like just like anything's possible. I don't believe there's such a thing as impossible. We just don't understand it yet, kinds of things. And
Even the word impossible has the word possible in it. So yeah,
well, if it's or take it another way, I'm possible.
exactly. I mean, there's really no limitations. Anything is possible. That's why
We
I've
just
worked
don't
with
understand
I've
something.
worked with people before where it's like I'll come up with the craziest idea. Like we like how I am. You and I are both Aries. Like I shoot for the absolute stars. Like as far as you could reach, that's like my goal. And that way if I don't reach that, then I'm still way farther than I would have if I just settled for something that was
Well,
comfortable or easy for me to reach for.
as you remember in my book, God Didn't Create Alarm Clocks. The very first saying I put, I said, yeah, reach out to the stars, but keep your feet on the ground. Yeah. In other words, reach for the stars with your creativity, but keep your feet on the ground with the business and nobody's walking off with your
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
It's like I've worked with people before, right? Where like as soon as you say something that just doesn't make like it may not make sense at this moment, or like my goal may be so crazy that you're like, this kid's out of his mind, and they automatically are like, no, no, that's not possible, blah 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 blah, and it's like, whoa, no. If you think about it, anything is possible. So that's I'm always optimistic, even when people
Well,
hate me sometimes for how optimistic I am. But I find that
oh, it drives people crazy. I'm an optimistic person too. It drives people crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
believe me, I
yeah,
lost a lot of friends over it too, believe it or not.
some people they want you to feel as bad as they do.
Yeah, well,
Kind of.
yeah, they always try to complain and bring you down, and it's like, yeah, I could sit there and complain with you, and you could sit here and complain, and I could agree with you, or you could suck it up and realize you're a grown up, and that what has happened to you doesn't define you. It's just something that happened to you. So like, you can either choose to sit there and dwell on it, or you can move on and grow from it and learn the lesson that was meant to be learned.
There you go.
You know. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we cover a lot of stuff. I mean, the
Oh
subject
yeah,
really,
and it's all ties to communication. It's
yeah,
just really weird. It's all tied together. This show should be titled like the importance of communication and whatever, But yeah, I mean, it just ties things being professional and
Yeah,
the community.
especially in a world now where you cannot really communicate the way that we are
Exactly.
used to because of the virus and having to wear a mask and you can only see people's eyes and everybody's kind of just scared to be next to each other as opposed to a couple years ago when it was like everything was normal, you know? So it's like this is important, just a reminder for everybody, just in case that like you lost touch with reality that communication is huge and don't undervalue it at all or underrate it because it once everything is going to come back to a new normal, but we're going to be able to have some familiar things that we used to do come back to life and
Well, yeah, it'll just be a little different, but yeah. But the thing is, yeah, with the communication, you want, really sane communication. I don't, just it's how you communicate, it's what you say, and things like that.
there you go.
And I'm sure we're over time. So, anything else, Baseface?
Oh, I mean, again, thank you all for tuning into the show, liking, subscribing, sharing. We have a lot of stuff on the way and a lot of great content on the way. So just stay tuned for the next episode. And don't forget to tell your friends and family life in the music business is the way to go.
Hello, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Tune in for the next episode.